What is the solution? We can get rid of that personal liability if those general partnership shares are owned inside another C Corp or an LLC. There is no default discount, and if you really think about it, if you've got a complex business operation, like a restaurant or something like that, it's inside a corporate formation, you're gonna get more of a discount than if it's, yes, this is an investing company, and we're putting money in stocks and bonds and other investments for our clients, and here it's the asset inside this LLC, inside a family limited partnership. It's gonna be much less, if anything at all. So here's that basic, I mean very basic and definitely not recommended. All right, you're setting up your family limited partnership, just deed the rental properties in, move the ownership of the family restaurant in, have a bank account. Notice what each of these assets doesn't have in this example. There's no LLC. There's no corporation around it. It's just, we moved the sole proprietor family restaurant and the individually owned rental properties, just moved it in and set up a bank account. And these percentages of general partner versus limited partner, it's very typical. If it's an individual, 1%, that's what I'm using as the example to keep it easy. If it's like grandma and grandpa, maybe they each have 1%. And then the 98% would be the limited shares that they have to give out. The example I was thinking of was, you know what, when I was 18 and going off to college, this is how I kind of packed my bags. I just threw everything into whatever bag there was. I didn't have anything divided into other smaller bags, and I just dumped everything in. That's what this setup is. Now, while I do have some fond memories from college, packing and unpacking the right way was not one of them. All right, so the drawbacks of the basic setup, yeah, there's personal liability still for the general partners. The business assets are not separate from each other, and it's subject to probate on death because those shares were owned by the individuals. Okay, so not just the general partnership shares, they hadn't gifted out any of the limited shares at this point either. So all of it goes into probate. What is the solution? We can get rid of that personal liability if those general partnership shares are owned inside another C Corp or an LLC. So now you're kind of throwing this liability shield around those particular shares. Each business can get its own LLC or corporation, whatever works. But again, big, strong tax warning. It's either an LLC, taxed as an LLC, or it's a C Corp. It cannot be an S Corp. It cannot be an LLC taxed as an S Corp. You can't do that. All right, and we're going to come back to the probate issue in a little bit to show how we can wrap all of this together. And we break some of these things down, being the clever planners that we are. Let's just say, yeah, we've got that restaurant. It owns the property, and it has a couple of trucks. It's all owned by the restaurant. Well, we can put the business operations, the restaurant itself, under a C Corp structure. The actual property, well, let's have that put into an LLC. And now the LLC can rent the premises to the restaurant C Corporation. What about the trucks? Put them in an LLC. Have a rental agreement or a lease agreement between the restaurant and the LLC holding the trucks. And now you've separated that liability out among three entities. And depending on what happens, oh, somebody got food poisoning and they wanted to sue. And they were successful. And it was for millions of dollars, which, okay, I know juries can do anything. That sounds a little crazy, but whatever. That's not going to affect the business premises. It's just the restaurant. It's not going to touch the trucks because they were leased and they were owned by another organization.
If you think it's important for educational videos like this to get out there, then please help us out by subscribing to the channel.
All right, so now we've got, quote, the proper FLP setup. The general partnership shares owned by a C Corp, owned by the individual. Again, we'll get to the probate piece of it later. You've got rental property 1 inside an LLC, rental property 2 inside an LLC. You've got the family restaurant set up inside a C Corp, and you've got the family limited partnership. The family limited partnership has its own bank account now. Each one of these entities is going to have its own bank account associated with it under that LLC or that corporation. And you've got the family limited partnership bank account. And the limited shares, 99%. General partnership shares, 1%. Is there a way to discount this even further? Because when you've got this type of setup, you've got those different entities all inside the family limited partnership, 99%. All right, I'm going to describe it. I couldn't fit it on a slide in a way that you could read if we broke it down even further. But if you really want to get this complicated, you can. The rental property, LLC1, if that were 99% owned by the family limited partnership and 1% owned by the individual, well, now suddenly you're doing a valuation on a non-exclusively owned LLC inside the family limited partnership, so that's going to discount it even further. Same thing with the rental property 2 LLC. Again, it's 99% owned, not 100%, so that can get you a little bit more of a discount. And family restaurant, same thing. So there are some more discounts available, but again, at this point, well, look, I can't do a 3D slide for PowerPoint, at least not yet. But yeah, that's a way you can get even greater discounts. Now, the big thing, this is an estate planning organization, an estate planning conference. What are we doing to avoid probate here? Well, the general partnership shares, they can be owned by the management company, and the management company is going to end up being owned by the trust. So, okay, instead of it being owned by grandma and grandpa, it's owned by their revocable living trust. So them as trustees own the management company, which owns the general partnership shares. What about those limited shares? The revocable trust can own all those limited shares until they get gifted out. And now we've completely solved the probate issue on this. So this is really how it's set up to begin with. The general partner shares owned by a management company owned by the trust, and then all the limited shares are also owned by the trust prior to gifting it out. Again, getting to the proof of all of this stuff. Once this is set up, you want the paperwork showing the general shares are owned by that corporation, that there's transfer paperwork of the management company going into the trust, and proof, transfer paperwork of the limited shares going into the trust, just again, show it's funded into the revocable living trust. And now we're getting up to the part about gifting the shares during life. Gifting those shares during life. Each time there's going to be a gift of these shares, basically you're taking a look at what's the annual gifting exclusion. If it's just, well, grandpa's passed on, grandma's the one who owns the shares, and what are we at, 19,000 a year, or is it still 18? 19. We're at 19,000 a year. Well, grandma can gift those limited shares for $19,000 worth of shares. So you can gift more to each child, and she can gift those shares to each grandchild and start getting those limited shares out of the trust and directly to them. But when you do that, and this is the way I do it, you have that transfer and the beneficiary or the guardian signing off that they're accepting this as an agreement. Here's the paperwork with the transfer of the shares down to them. I always just attach the accountant's valuation of what those shares are worth. And I keep a copy of all that paperwork. So each step of the way, we're showing what the gifting value was, that it was excluded. Can you gift more than that $19,000 a year? Yeah, but now you're also filling out the gift tax form. So you could gift a significant amount. It's going to take away from your lifetime exclusion. But if you want to transfer more in a shorter period of time, you can do that and get it out to the beneficiaries. But again, document everything. What about distributing profits? Because that was the last big thing that a lot of my clients want. Yeah, I want to reduce the size of my estate. I'm willing to transfer ownership interests. I'm not willing to transfer control. But hey, if I gift away that whole 99%, does that mean if I've got profits coming out of the family limited partnership that I'm not getting 99% of it? Well, yeah, if you're doing it that way. But what can we do? Set up another consulting business to assist with the operations, marketing, whatever the services are, whatever those potential profits are for the family limited partnership, that's just an expense going to this other company. And this other company is wholly owned by the trust. So grandma doesn't have to distribute the profits if what we're doing is offsetting that as an expense for some consulting going to this other company. It's just going to filter through to grandma, and you don't have to declare FLP profits in order to get the money out. So with this setup, we've managed to gift away about 99% of the value over the years to the next generation. It's not going to end up being estate taxed on anything but the general partner shares that are kept by grandma in this example. And all the way along the way, she didn't have to distribute profits to any of the kids and grandkids. We managed to get it expensed out through this consulting company. Big warning, have a solid accountant that understands all of these different areas of taxation. And if anyone has some suggestions for someone who works in North Carolina, I've just started working with someone new. I've worked with a lot of good accountants over the year, but then they have this habit of being too busy with whatever they're focusing on. Or one of the best ones I had, she had the damn nerve to actually get a job with the county. Okay, so it's always worth taking a look at and seeing what's out there. Right, so don't be overly greedy with these discounts. Look, just go with the valuation that's on there. Don't try to do anything more, because if there is an examination, it is going to end up falling back on you. You want that written documentation. And the big thing, and this is something we experience on the trust planning end, it's not just about the document, it's about what you do with it. How many of you have sat down with clients and it's been several years and you realize a third to half of their assets have been moved to other financial institutions which aren't in the trust? So their trust is now largely unfunded several years after you've done the work for them. They think they have the document, they think it's all set. Even fairly savvy business people, oh, I've got the document, therefore I'm going to gift these discounts, and then they fail along the way. But why was I paying the accountant that much money? I don't really need to do this. I've got the paperwork distributing it, and so I'm just going to do that on my own. And then it's going to fall apart on them.